What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. My name is Kyle. It is our Thursday night hangout, 7 p.m. Central Time here. We do have a few games live. We're going to hop into those games and take a live look at the box score. We'll shout out some of the things that I'm noticing in the free agency or the waiver wire pool, and we'll take any questions from the chat room. So let's go ahead and get into a screen share. And I hope you guys are enjoying the new 1080 layout, crystal clear vision. So thumbs up if you guys are digging the new 1080p. But anyways, I do have the list of free agents up, but let's actually take a peek at some of the games that are ongoing right now. This is the Bulls and the Hawks. This game currently at halftime. It's the furthest along game tonight. We do have this game and 3 other games live right now. If you're watching Memphis and Boston on TNT, I want to get to that game later myself. But anyways, Chicago on top of Atlanta, 63-56 at halftime here. Leader is Vucevic with 13 points. He's got 7 rebounds, 3 assists. Good night for him. DeMar DeRozan just doing his normal thing. He's got 5 boards, 6 assists, 8 points there. Javonte Green, 6 points, just a rebound, nothing else. Zach LaVine playing well, 8 points, 3 assists, 2 rebounds. And Ayo Dosunmu with 3 assists and just 7 points, but he does get a block, so that's kind of fun. The bench, nothing really happening on the bench. Tristan Thompson's playing well. Kobe White playing well. I guess both guys have 8 points, so they are playing well. Thompson and Kobe White there. Moving on down to the Hawks, though. Trae Young, 16 points, 8 for 8 from the free throw line, 2 of 2 from the 3. Shooting poorly, though, 3 of 8 overall from the field. He does have 6 assists on the evening, though. Clint Capella, 8.7 rebounds, playing well. Nothing too crazy on the bench here. Bogdanovic, 7 points. Just a pretty lackluster bench showing so far from the Hawks. But anyway, 63-56 at halftime. That game's going smooth. And then we'll come back to some of these live games here once they finish up their first quarters. But I did want to go over some of the news today. The Brooklyn Nets say Joe Harris to undergo season-ending ankle surgery, so that's disappointing. We are going to see the return of Kevin Durant tonight. So tonight's starting lineup is Dragic. I think that's his first start with the Nets. Curry, Durant, Bruce Brown, and Andre Drummond. So the Nets starting to get healthy, starting to get a little bit fun here. Dragic is being inserted into the starting lineup for Patty Mills, so that is interesting there. And again, that game just started. They're up 29-17 on the Miami Heat, so we'll check back with that one. And any other player news here that I think needed to be thrown out there? I think that's as far as like long-term news. Otherwise, they're just guys that are kind of missing tonight. So so far so good. I guess one thing that I wanted to mention with the Jaylen Brown injury. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Boston Celtics. I'm going to hit all available here. I just want to show you guys. So Jaylen Brown, we don't know how long he's out for. He does have the sprained ankle right now. He missed practice yesterday, and he's officially forced to miss at least 1 game after spraining his ankle on Tuesday's win. So we have no timetable and no long-term concern. Aaron Naismith, Payton Pritchard, and Grant Williams could see additional playing time against Memphis. We saw Aaron Naismith get the start tonight, so that's quite interesting. I think while Jaylen Brown is out, I don't really know if that means anything for fantasy. Naismith, 6.6 fantasy points per game on the season over the last 7 days, though. He's averaging 7 fantasy points. Really nothing to take from fantasy here. Maybe it's Grant Williams, the power forward here. Kind of hard to trust for fantasy, but so far getting a minute and 3 points and a rebound in there in this game. But he did have 31.75 the night before here. So maybe Grant Williams is the play. I do think Derek White, probably the guy that's going to see the biggest increase in scoring here, 88% rostered, though. I would imagine his points with Boston and his minutes are probably going to go up. So Derek White, kind of the biggest beneficiary. If anything, Jason Tatum gets a boost here. Maybe Robert Williams gets him a shot or 2 more per game. And same with Marcus Smart. I think Marcus Smart might be the easy answer here. So interesting. We'll cover those guys later. I did want to kind of just go team by team, and maybe we'll do that tonight. That'll be our Thursday night live show. Let's go team by team and see what's going on here. What's up with John Collins? So he's out Thursday. He's doubtful. He's been listed as doubtful. He hasn't played. John Collins hasn't played since February 11th. So he's been out, but it sounds like he's returning. He dipped a little bit in percent rosters. So if he's out there in your league, go ahead and scoop him up. It sounds like he's going to be coming back shortly here. Again, he had the foot injury. The fact that he's listed that he's been listed as doubtful so far this week is a good sign that he's on the verge of being listed questionable. That would be the next progression here. So John Collins set to return at some point here, but otherwise everything looking pretty good here for the young Hawks team. Gallinari only 4.6% rostered, and Danilo Gallinari putting up some nice numbers over the last few games here. So he should be someone that you guys target in your pickups here. Moving on to Brooklyn. We don't really need to talk too much about Brooklyn. Like, we know the names, we know the games here. I'm intrigued with Bruce Brown, but I think his numbers are going to come down a little bit now that Durant is coming back. But he had been, putting up a good amount of fantasy points, up until the other night here. So interesting. Bruce Brown he's playing well so far to start tonight. So we'll double check on him. But we'll skip the Nets. We'll skip the Nets for now. We'll skip Boston. We just went over them. Let's go over Charlotte. Nobody really out. We still know Gordon Hayward. Has he been listed? He remains out indefinitely. Yeah, they didn't really officially cancel it, but for the most part, I like the Hornets because they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players averaging more than 22 fantasy points over the last 7 games here. So that includes the 24.3% rostered Mason Plumlee. He needs to be picked up and rostered. Montrezl Harrell, getting eased into this team here. Playing, he's had some flash moments here. The minutes were higher here, but he's been kind of on a downtrend the last couple games. But playing well with his new team here. Let's see, Isaiah Thomas only 1% rostered. He's getting some run, and it looks like that's pretty much it for people available. Let's move it to Chicago. Chicago playing right now, actually, and they've only got a handful of players that are like must roster players. I got to see when Lonzo's coming back. So this is from February 23rd. He's been ramping up his running lately. We still don't know. Mid to late March remains the most likely window for Ball to retake the court. So mid to late March with no guarantee. Let's just assume that might even be April. We really don't know when Lonzo's coming back. What about Patrick Williams? This is February 23rd as well. Still no definitive timetable there. So this looks like what we're working with Chicago is for sure DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, and Vucevic. Those are the must-own players here. But outside of them, I still don't know why Ayo Dosunmu only 24% rostered and Kobe White, both these guys under 24% rostered. That just kind of blows my mind. You got Dosunmu averaging 24.7 fantasy points since the All-Star break, and Kobe White over 20 points. So if you play in 10 or 12-man leagues, these two need to be rostered. They do bring Kobe White off the bench, but he's a very valuable player. I think Javonte Green, not a super high ceiling guy, but you look at his numbers here. Again, he's playing right now, so this is this 3-3 that's going on currently. But a 14, a 23, a 16, a 25, and a 22. In a 12-man league, I think that's good to go for rostering. In a 10-man league, it's fringe, but he's putting up minutes. He's a player that I think needs to be on the radar in 10 and 12-man leagues. And then Tristan Thompson, I'm curious here. Getting some decent minutes here. If these start to trickle upwards, I'm super interested, but Vucevic is going to command just too much work here. So the Bulls have a 6-man rotation here that I like right now. We'll take a peek at their live game later. The Cavaliers, we're still waiting the health of is our guy returning tonight? Where is he? Why can't I find his name? Garland. Yep, I think Garland's playing. Yep, Garland played last night, so he's back in the lineup. He played a lot of minutes last night. Rajon Rondo is the injured player, though. He's doubtful with a toe injury. They're saying he's going to be sidelined for 2 weeks, so that means you're going to see a rotation of Darius Garland, and you're still going to see Brandon Goodwin play. Now, last night, Goodwin basically just came off the bench. If we click into this last night against Chicago here, they kind of got they got beat pretty thoroughly. But Garland gets to start. Backup point guard duties were divided up here, and again, because this was kind of a blowout, they didn't really get too many guys minutes here, and I guess the primary backup would be Brandon Goodwin, so we'll keep an eye on him. But interesting, nothing really to take, I think, from this game last night. It was just kind of the first game back for Garland. But interesting. Let's see who else we got here. So Garland, Mobley, Jared Allen, those are the must roster players. Lauri Markkanen, only 42% rostered. He needs to be on teams. He's been balling out. I don't know what's with the 9-point game, but the other 3 out of 4 games, fantastic. In 10 and 12 man leagues, he needs to be picked up for sure. Outside of Markkanen and Goodwin, we got to wait and see. He had been, if anything happens to Garland, Goodwin's the guy you want. And then Chede here. Chede putting up some decent minutes over the last few games, but I still don't really trust him for fantasy yet. So the Cavs just kind of are what they are. Kevin Love, 10, 12-man leagues. He's rosterable, I suppose, but nothing too crazy here. What's going on with LeVert? I think LeVert's the main guy here with a foot injury. We haven't seen him since February 15th, and I'm looking for a report here. So it says this came out today. He's been ruled out for tomorrow night's game on Friday. His next chance will be to suit up on Sunday. So there's a small chance we're going to see Caris LeVert back on Sunday here. So the Cavs they're kind of just in neutral right now, just trying to get healthy. Let's take a peek here at the Dallas Cowboys, or the Dallas Mavericks, my bad. As far as must rostered players, of course, Luka. And what's up with Dinwiddie? Dinwiddie's starting to come alive here. His first 2 games with the Mavs were rough, but his last 3, pretty good for fantasy. You see 20 points, 24, and 14. Assists are trending upwards. Starting to settle in here. He's 80% rostered, but if he's out there in your league, I think there could be an interesting pickup here. And he's been their second best fantasy player over the last 7 days. Dorian Finney-Smith, one of my favorite. I don't know why he's so criminally undervalued in fantasy leagues. He's 16.8% rostered, but high scoring fantasy player. If you play in 10 or 12 man leagues, you know he's going to be on the floor a lot, and a good chance at points, rebounds, assists. He's usually a 4 to 5 category guy, and I just think if you're needing someone in a 10 and 12 man league, get Dorian Finney-Smith. Jalen Brunson starting to cool down a little bit here. I do see a downtrend of his rostership, minus 2.7. If someone's dropping him in your league, go ahead and pick him up. There's no reason he should be dropped. He had 2 bad games, an 8 and 8. 2 bad games, so what? He's still going to be on the floor a ton for the Mavs. And he does kind of compete a little bit with Dinwiddie as far as the same position, but he's still going to be on the floor a lot. Now, what's up with Maxi Klieba here? He's been ruled out for Thursday's game for tonight. It sounds like he's just getting a rest, a sore right ankle. He's just resting tonight. I think that's the nightcap tonight. Mavs, Golden State. So Dwight Powell is the guy tonight. Not something for fantasy that we need to be, I guess, in a 12-man league, maybe. 12-man league, maybe I'm interested in Dwight Powell. Otherwise, Reggie Bullock is the guy here. Not a great fantasy player, pretty good real-life player, though. If he continues to get 36, 34 minutes, I'm interested, because he's a guy that can kind of touch, pretty much all the 5 categories, and he's a streaky scorer. You see his opportunity here was pretty high, back in early February, end of January. Getting a lot of points, a lot of rebounds, and touching 4 to 5 categories. So keep your eye on Reggie Bullock. We'll just tap the interested in him and see if he can entertain us at some point. But I'm intrigued with Davis Bertans, who is a guy, we know he's a really streaky scorer. If he gets the opportunity to put up consistent minutes, I'm going to be interested. So keep your mind on him. And otherwise, I think that's pretty much all the guys we need to worry about for fantasy right now. Dallas, Denver. Okay, so guys that are most rostered, Jokic for sure, Will Barton, 65%, he needs to be rostered. And then after that, it's pretty slim pickings. I think Aaron Gordon at 54% needs to be picked up. Monte Morris, 22% rostered. He's averaging about 22 points per game himself. So he's a guy that's in a 10 and 12-man league. He's worth a roster. But DeMarcus Cousins, coming in here, not getting a ton of minutes, but when he's on the floor, he's playing well. Those last 3 games, 25 points, 40 points, and 24, putting up some massive rebounding numbers. Basically, he'll get a rebound every other minute, and the assists trending upwards. And what I like about this is he's had 3 straight games of 5 categories. So very, very productive. The turnovers a little bit high here, 3 and 4. I like to see that under 2. But I'm liking what I'm seeing here from Cousins in a reserve role. He's a player that I think if you need help at the 5 spot, whip him out there. He's a really good insurance policy right now, playing some of his best ball of the season. And then J-Michael Green. He's a really talented player. He just doesn't have consistent play time. When he gets the opportunity, you see these 2 games over 20 minutes. a double-double, a 6 and 10, a 21 and a 41-point game. So I'm interested here if this continues to be a trend where he's going to play a lot as like a fifth or sixth man. I'm interested in Jamichael Green. Otherwise, nothing else really for fantasy sticks out on this team. I do think you got to go scoop up Michael Porter Jr. This is probably the last week to do it. He's got a plus 6% over the last 7 days here in terms of percent rostership. This was on Tuesday. The Nuggets are planning to send Porter back to the G League later this week. Perhaps mid to late March return for MPJ here. Exciting stuff. And then Jamal Murray. What's up with Jamal? He's going to be ready to make his debut prior to the start of the playoffs. So maybe sometime in April. That would be a full calendar year since he tore that ACL. So Jamal Murray perhaps coming back for the playoff run. Exciting times for Denver. Moving on to Detroit. Detroit's must-roster players, Cade Cunningham, Jeremy Grant. You guys know these guys. I think Isaiah Stewart and Sadiq Bey need to be rostered as well. What's up with Marvin Bagpipes? Ankle injury out. He's officially out for a Thursday game. He has a chance to play tomorrow night. We'll see if he's out. If he's out, he had been playing really well. So if he's coming back and he's going to be healthy, I mean, you got to think 20, 25 points per game is likely where he's going to fall. So he's definitely a player you want to keep your eye on. But in his stead, it looks like Kelly Olynyk's been getting some minutes here. Back-to-back 20-plus minutes, 10 points, 20 points, playing well. So if no Bagley, I think Olynyk's the guy. Hamidou Diallo continues to play well. So I'm seeing 8 Detroit Pistons on the list that average more than 20 fantasy points. So I think you can use the Detroit Pistons. Let me see if there's anybody else on this list that we need to worry about. Yeah, we're not going to spend too much time there. Golden State, we're waiting to see the return of Draymond Green. But until then, the Warriors are looking like a 3-man crew. Stephen Curry, Andrew Wiggins, and Klay Thompson. These guys are widely rostered here. But the Warriors have 4 other fantasy players averaging more than 20 points per game. And Kevon Mooney is a guy here that I've kind of hopped on and off throughout my team this year. But look at this game log for Kevon Mooney. In terms of fantasy points, find me a game below 20 fantasy points. You're going to have to go all the way back to January 27th. So he went a full month with no games below 20 fantasy points. I think that's pretty spectacular. The numbers aren't pretty, but what I do like about him is he's a 4 to 5 category player. He's a really smart player on the defensive end. He's going to get steals or blocks, 1 or 2 or more, each game from those categories. And I just think he's got a really safe floor, good rebounder. He does have the opportunity to get double-digit scoring figures on a nightly basis too. But overall, really safe high floor. Kevon Mooney, only 8% rostered. I think that needs to be a lot higher. If you play in 10-man leagues, it needs to be picked up, I think. In 12-man leagues, it's a slam dunk. In 12-man leagues, he needs to be rostered. But what about Otto Porter Jr.? Now, Otto Porter, in the end of January, he was playing really, really well. He was a must-roster player in 10 and 12-man leagues. And then he kind of had an injury, missed some time, and then he's kind of had to work his way back. And just now, he's starting to hit his stride again. So 4 of his last 5 nights, he's had 20-plus fantasy points. He's traditionally a 4-category player as well. He's not going to get 5 every night, but I do like his ability here. He did have 6 steals the other night against Minnesota. So he's a consistent player because he touches a lot of categories most nights, and he's a 7% rostered right now, averaging 22 points per game. Kuminga, kind of like the same position as Otto Porter. He's averaging 22 points per game. And then Gary Payton, not sure we care about him for fantasy, but I'm interested in some of these top guys. And then Draymond Green, again, I'm a little bit nervous about what happens to Kevon Mooney when Draymond Green returns, but we're seeing here Draymond was a limited participant in Saturday's practice. So he's getting close. He's getting close. Probably not going to see him for another week or 2 yet, but it's coming very close for our man here. Is Wiseman out for the season yet? Recalled by Golden State on Saturday. We'll see what happens with that, but let's keep it moving. Houston, we'll make this one quick. Houston does have 7 players averaging more than 20 fantasy points over the last 7 games. Of course, Christian Wood is rostered. Jaylen Green probably needs to be picked up right now. He's playing hot. Kevin Porter Jr. needs to be rostered. He's playing well. But Jayshawn Tate, he's only 34% rostered, and he's averaging 27 points per game over the last 7 days. One of my favorites here, Alperen Sengun. This is a guy here who was starting to play his best ball before the All-Star break here. And it's a kind of a mixed bag, but if you just hold on to him and trust that hopefully sometime soon he'll start to see some consistent minutes. Like I'm looking at this stretch from February 2nd to February 8th, where he hit all 20 minutes. 25 minutes to 28 was his highest. But his fantasy points were basically really, really high, basically 1 fantasy point per minute. And that's what we want to see here. If he's going to get more than 20 minutes per game, Sengun's a guy to keep your eye on. Schroeder, worth an ad here. He's 70% though. But otherwise, maybe Garrison Matthews, Kenyon Martin, just kind of stay away. I think we'll stay away. Yeah, it's Houston. We'll stay away. Keep it moving. Let's go to Indy. The Pacers. Pacers are fun. They finally got Brogdon back, and they're looking a lot better. So Brogdon, in his return from the All-Star break, he put up a massive stat line last night, flirted with a triple-double. But good to see him back. Must roster player, 91% rostered. Let's fix that, please. But anyways, Brogdon, Halliburton, and Hield, starting to see some fun things with the Pacers. Otherwise, I'm looking at a couple guys that need to be picked up right now. O'Shea Brissett, averaging 30 points per game, and he's only 13% rostered. One of my favorite players right now that you can pick up. He's 13.4% rostered, averaging 30.9 points per game over the last 7 days, basically since the All-Star break. So you look at those 4 games, a 24, a 19, a 35, and a 45. Even before the All-Star break, you see a 35, 11, but a 46, a 41, a 29. So there's some potential here. He's one of the most efficient players, I think, with his minutes. And then we'll go to Isaiah. I guess I skipped one. Jalen Smith is getting some run here. His minutes spiked the other night here. He had 15 points and 15 rebounds. Huge game. You look at his last handful of games since getting acquired by Phoenix, just really like they're giving him really consistent some playing time here. And I think from a fantasy standpoint, this is probably a player that I need to go pick up right now. I'm heavily invested in O'Shea Brissett in a few leagues here, but I like what I'm seeing from Jalen Smith, probably one of my favorite must-add players from this video tonight. And then Isaiah Jackson, the power forward center here. It's kind of a weird rotation. You have Isaiah Jackson, Jalen Smith, and O'Shea Brissett. They essentially use 3 power forwards, ever since they lost Sabonis or traded Sabonis away. They use this rotation of 3 power forwards here. The leader for minutes is O'Shea Brissett. He's got about 32 minutes. Jalen Smith, 29 minutes, and then Isaiah Jackson about 21 minutes. So I will say I'm going to go pick up Jalen Smith after this video. So please go do so as well. And then after that, it's kind of a mixed bag here. But those are the guys that I think you need from the Pacers. Let's move it on to the Clippers. Clippers are interesting. When do we get to see Paul George back? No timetable yet. He'll likely be sidelined until at least mid-March. So we're still a couple of weeks away from Paul George. Kawhi Leonard still not interested. But anyways, players right now, over the last 7 days, Zubac averaging 35 points per game. It looks like he had some big, massive games here, some big double-double potential with Zubac. So if you guys are playing in 10 and 12-man leagues and he's available, get him on your team. Terrence Mann continues to be a hot ad right now, 23% rostered, but only 34, or I guess not only, but he's averaging 34 points per game. Reggie Jackson, the most rostered player on this team right now, he's averaging 31.8. Robert Covington, 61% rostered, and he's averaging 30.7 points. What's up with this Isaiah Hartenstein, though? He actually is a very interesting player. He played well with Cleveland last year. His problem is consistency. He doesn't get consistent minutes, but he's a very good player. When he gets the minutes, you want him on your team. So if you ever see that Hartenstein's getting a start, or if there's an injury to Zubac and something like that, this is the guy that we're going to want. So just keep him in the back of your mind. And then we'll move on here from the Clippers. The Lakers, the sad violin for the Lakers noise. LeBron trying his best. The next best player is Carmelo Anthony, and he remains scoring the ball extremely well. 54% rostered. If you play in 10 or 12-man leagues, he needs to be picked up ASAP. Dwight Howard has been playing well. He didn't play good the other night. What was his issue? Only 4 minutes in that game. Not sure what's up with that. So Dwight Howard, hard to trust. Malik Monk, I kind of want to just avoid the Lakers right now. The Memphis Grizz, of course, Ja Morant playing lights out at the moment here. But then you have Steven Adams, the second best player on the Grizzlies for fantasy is Steven Adams, averaging 39.5 points since the All-Star break. You have Jaren Jackson Jr. up at 94%, so don't worry about that. But otherwise, DeAnthony Melton, 24.5 points per game, only 10% rostered. Kyle Anderson, 16.3% rostered, and he's averaging 22.4 points per game. You guys know Desmond Bane, 80% rostered, averaging about 20 points. People are actually dumping him right now. And then you get Brandon Clark, who is the guy to just keep your eye on. He's averaging 20 fantasy points per game, 43% rostership. We'll see what happens. When is Dillon Brooks coming back? It says early March. We'll see. I do like Dillon Brooks if he's able to return. It's been a while since we saw him. But again, before he got hurt, averaging 28.8 points per game. You can see in the league that I'm playing in, the guy's been keeping him on his IR. So if you're in one of those leagues where you guys got IR spots, go ahead and stash them. You know, what else you got to lose? If you have the open spot, you might as well fill it with a good player like Dillon Brooks. Let's keep it moving to Miami. The top 4 players: Adebayo, Hero, Lowry, Butler. You guys know them. But who else do we got? Over the last 7 games, Gabe Vincent, tripping my sensors here. He's averaging 25 points per game, only 3.7% rostered. Like, what is that? So he's a pretty consistent player since the All-Star break. He's had games of 16, 22, 27. Big night against Milwaukee last night in the loss, 35 points for him. So Gabe Vincent coming along here. Duncan Robinson, not playing well. Dwayne Dedmon, no. Strus, no. PJ, no. Interesting. That's kind of about it for these Miami Heat. Moving on to the Milwaukee Bucks. Of course, Giannis, Drew, Bobby, and Middleton all need to be rostered, all playing very good ball right now. Over the last 7 days, though, not really anybody else sticking out. It's been kind of a 4-man group. Like, the Bucks are going to go as these players go here. So nobody else worth a roster spot here. Let's keep it moving. Minnesota they're still playing good ball. Their top guys, of course, it's a trio: Karl Anthony Towns, Russell, and Edwards. But after that, I mean, Beverly still probably needs to be rostered. He's only 16.5% rostered if you play in 10 and 12-man leagues. I like that, 22 points. Torian Prince getting some run. Malik Beasley getting some run. Now, Jared Vanderbilt had been playing really good earlier in the year, and people have been dumping him. You see his minus 5%. People are kind of just turned off by the Vanderbilts. And then as Jaden McDaniel's been getting some time here. So outside of those top guys, I really don't feel great about anybody, but keep your eye on Jaden McDaniels. And we'll keep it moving here. The Pelicans, a lot of fun all of a sudden. They have a trio here: McCollum, Ingram, and Valanciunas. After that, Herbert Jones averaging 28 points per game, only 14% rostered, getting his mojo back. He had a nice little run in February and January, and now he's starting to get ramped back up here. So 2 really nice games. He's a 4 to 5 category player, high effort. Herbert Jones, 14% rostered, again, averaging 28 points per game. And then Jackson Hayes, 7.2% rostered, and he's averaging 26.8 fantasy points per game. He's scored 6 straight games over 20 fantasy points. So if you need somebody, 2 positions here, center and power forward, I like Jackson Hayes quite a bit. After that, not really interested in anybody else. Keep it moving. Go to the Knicks. RJ Barrett's been on fire since the All-Star break return. But anyways, the only 2 must-roster guys are RJ Barrett and Julius Randle. After that, the fantasy numbers just aren't great. Alec Burks and Evan Fournier, the only 2 guys averaging more than 20 fantasy points per game. It's kind of just ugly here. No Kemba, no D Rose. It's kind of looking like a toilet swirl here for the Knicks. The OKC Thunder, though, SGA is back. playing really, really well. So, of course, he's rostered. But after that, what's up with Josh Giddey? He's been out for a while. He's been ruled out. It could be a minute. I covered this the other night. It could be a minute. We still don't have an update on that minute. And in his stead, it is Trey Mann getting a ton of minutes. You look at what he's been putting up: 6 straight games over 30 minutes. The points are there, rebounds, assists, and steals. A 4-category player here, averaging 30 points per game. And again, guys, he's only 9.7% rostered. So if you're playing in 10, 12-man leagues, let's get this man on your rosters. Isaiah Roby playing well as well. He's only 4.5% rostered. He's averaging 29 points per game over the last 7 days. And then Poku's starting to turn around. He was the guy that he put himself on teams last year at the end of I guess the regular season for fantasy, and he's doing the same thing again, where he's flirting with double doubles, 9 and 11, 9 and 8, and then look at this, a 5-category man, 2 steals and 2 blocks in each game here. So Poku, definitely a guy you want to take a poke at. And then Darius Bazley, 25.9. So look, they legit, they have 6 dudes averaging more than 25.9 points per game over the last 7 days. I'm very interested. And what's up with Lou Dort? We'll see about him. He's worth holding on to your IRs for now. If you can stash him, go ahead and continue to do so. But let's keep it moving here. Orlando Magic getting messier with their new Markelle Fultz. Dude just broke the 40 record. I think I saw that coming in. Was that let's see, was that Olave? Who did it? Was that Chris Olave? I think that's what it was. Chris Olave might have just broke it. But yeah, that's I was watching some of the combine earlier today. But anyways, I'm just reviewing each team real quick here. The Orlando Magic at the moment, since the All-Star break, they have 5 guys averaging more than 20 fantasy points. That's Wendell Carter Jr. averaging 37.9. He's 86% rostered, so he's taken. But Chuma Okeke averaging 34 points per game, only 11.7% rostered. He's a guy that needs to be picked up right now. He's been super consistent. He doesn't get a ton of minutes. But he's very productive. You saw he put up a 55-point night the other night. Just very productive. He'll lay an egg at 10 or 16 every now and then, but I like what I'm seeing from Okeke in 12-man leagues. You also have Franz Wagner continuing to play well. Mo Bamba has been frustrating to own, but he's starting to pick it back up here. 2 really nice double-doubles the last couple of nights here. Cole Anthony, the last guy averaging more than 20 fantasy points. And then keep an eye on Markelle Fultz. He might be a guy here that he's playing really well in limited minutes here. So 15 and 16 minutes in these games. If he starts getting minutes ramped up into the 20s, you're looking at a guy here that could be really useful for fantasy. And Tyquan Thornton from Baylor. I think I remember, I've seen some of his tape. I didn't think he'd run that fast, but dang, 4.21 unofficial time. Orlando Magic, they do run a lot of guys out here, but I think I've already mentioned all the guys at the top of the list that are worth rostering. Let's move on to the red-hot Philadelphia 76ers. James Harden, Joel Embiid leading the way. Both those guys 100% rostered. But Tyrese Maxey, you know what? I'm very encouraged. I thought Maxey would kind of lose some steam, but he's actually turned it on. Look at his last 3 games here: 25 points, 21 points, and 28 points. His fantasy numbers, super consistent. A range of 34 to 44 fantasy points. Just fitting in with James Harden, Joel Embiid, kind of being that intermediate piece that they need in between them. But so far, so good for these. The Sixers look like a problem. I will say that. And then Matisse Tybel, only 7% rostered, but look at what he's been doing since the All-Star break here. 23, a 27, and a 29. This is a player in 10 and 12-man leagues. I mean, he's a defensive player. He's going to get you steals and blocks. So if you do play in categories, this is your man. Not a scorer, but he's going to get boards. He's going to get a couple assists and steals and blocks. So I do like the depth there. And then Tobias Harris, not playing his best. He's the one that's going to take the scoring hit. You look at look at his numbers here at the beginning of February, and then just the last 3 games here, kind of not very consistent. So his numbers are starting to trend down. I don't think he's a fantasy superstar anymore with Harden in town. And then after that, they really don't have anybody that we need to know about for fantasy. But let's keep it moving. Go to the Phoenix Suns. And the name to know, I believe, well, you have Devin Booker, who's going to be out the next few days with the COVID stuff. And you have Ayton and you have Mikal Bridges. But after that, who are we picking up? Again, Devin Booker went into the health and safety protocols. If he can't clear, we're going to see some more of the guard play here. But anyways, Jay Crowder, averaging 33.8 fantasy points per game over the last 7 days, 18% rostered. Cameron Johnson, though, he's been the biggest beneficiary of the Chris Paul injury. 31.4 fantasy points and only 20% rostered. So he's the guy that you want, again, since the All-Star break. 4 fantastic games. Even before the All-Star break, he was a guy that probably needed to be rostered. So he's starting to blossom there. And then this is Cameron Payne. I think especially with no Booker tomorrow night. Cameron Payne, only 20 minutes, but he puts up 25 fantasy points, 8 assists. He's the best point guard on the roster after Chris Paul. So Cam Payne, last chance to get him while Chris Paul is out, 7.6% rostered. He just puts up 25 points in his first game. Probably going to see that continue. And then after that, we'll kind of just we'll keep it moving. The Portland Trail Blazers. This is a lot of O's here. Lillard, Nurkic, Bledsoe, everyone's O. But what do we got to work with? So Josh Hart, 54% rostered, but he's averaging 24.6 fantasy points. Trendon Watford, he is 0.4% rostered, and he's averaging 22.5 points per game since the All-Star break. 3 games after the All-Star break, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, and 23. Not really consistent. 33 points, 19, 14, but someone that I think eventually is just going to continue to get the minutes and could be a player worth keeping an eye on. Simons, of course, not playing his best ball the last few games here, but I wouldn't be surprised if this, if this is just a hiccup and he gets it back up to what he was doing before the All-Star break. Keep an eye on Drew Eubanks. He's been starting for them the last few games, and he's put up 23 points and 28. This is a guy that they acquired from San Antonio. Really productive player when he gets the minutes. So if you need someone at the 4 or the 5 spot, Drew Eubanks could be that guy. And then Justice Winslow. So he's got an Achilles injury. It's soreness. I don't know the severity of it, but it seems like people are kind of overreacting. He was dropped 7% over the last 7 days here. So if he's going to miss time, I get it. Don't hold on to him. But if he's just day-to-day and he's okay, he's going to be a player worth picking up. San Antonio is fun because the Derek White trade really opened things up. So after DeJounte Murray and Jacob Poeltl, you have Kelvin Johnson, 74% rostered, averaging 36 fantasy points per game. Devin Vassell, only 16% rostered, and he's averaging 32 points per game. Probably one of the biggest adds. And because of the Derek White trade, this was really easy to see. All of his minutes, all of his scoring has gone up since the Derek White trade. 4 straight games over 27 fantasy points. And then you have Lonnie Walker, 26.3 points per game over the last 7 days, 6.4% rostered. And then after that, it's kind of a drop. But this Devonte Cook, I don't know how to say it, don't know how to say his name, but he did put up a nice game here, 22.5 fantasy points. So we'll see. But again, those top 5 players, Lonnie Walker, Devin Vassell, Kelvin Johnson, need to be looked at. The Sacramento Kings, top 3 guys, all owned: Sabonis, Fox, and Harrison Barnes. But after that, Jeremy Lamb playing okay. And then after that, it's just kind of a mess. It's just a mess after that. The Raptors, top 3 guys, of course: Scotty Barnes, Fred VanVleet, Siakam, Gary Trent Jr. I'll group him into there as must-rostered players. But it's been Precious Achiuwa, 6% rostered, playing well, 25 points per game, and Malachi Flynn in absence of VanVleet. So as long as VanVleet's going to be out, he's got knee soreness. If you see VanVleet's out, it's going to be Malachi Flynn getting those minutes. And then after that, I don't really know what else to tell you. But OG Anunoby, the news came out today that he's going to be sidelined for at least 2 more weeks. So to me, that just kind of pours back into Scotty Barnes' bucket, opens things up at the 3-4 position, but not really too much fun for fantasy. Looking at the Utah Jazz, top 3 players: Rudy Gobert, Mitchell, and Conley, must-roster players. Jordan Clarkson and Bojan Bogdanovic, fringe roster players. After that, it gets a little murky there. And then we'll finish up here with the Washington Wizards. Kyle Kuzma, who might be my most improved fantasy player of the year. Just he was stuck in LA behind the superstars, gets his chance to shine here, and he's playing like a league winner for fantasy. But after Kuzma, you have 4 players averaging more than 20 fantasy points. That's Raul Neto, the starting point guard for them. Daniel Gafford, who was one of my favorite guys at the beginning of the season, and now starting to get back into the consistency of things. 3 straight games over 20 minutes, double-digit scoring. Rebounds are there, assists, steals, blocks. He's a 4-category player almost every night here. 3 straight games worth a damn for fantasy here. So Daniel Gafford, someone that tripped my sensors. KCP, 26 points, only 8% rostered here. And Corey Kispert, if you play in 10 or 12-man leagues, you see some consistency here. 4 straight games, over 20 fantasy points. Look at the minutes. That's what I'm interested in. Just very steady minutes. If he can continue to keep that spot, I think you're going to see someone worth a spot in fantasy lineups. And then after that, like that's pretty much it. What's up with Porzingis? So out with no timetable. So it is what it is. Thomas Bryant, Daniel Gafford are going to hold down the center spot. Avija was playing well before the break, not so much anymore. I don't know what to do with the Wizards, but that's I don't know. That's pretty much it for this video. We just did the whole NBA lineup. Now that I got you still here, let's just do one quick live look at. I want to take a look at the Memphis Grizzlies and the Boston Celtics. It's almost halftime here, 45-45. You got Jaren Jackson Jr. leading the way with 11 points. Ja Morant shooting awful. He's 3 of 14 from the field, 0 for 5. I know a lot of people are excited about him being an MVP candidate, but I don't. I think we're a little too early yet. Maybe next year. But kind of a rough game here from the Grizzlies. Only shooting 35.8%, 19% from 3, 60% from the line. Not great. Whereas the Celtics shooting 33% from the three-pointer. You have field goal percentage at 39%, and they're hitting their free throws. So this has been pretty solid effort from the Celtics. They're playing really good defense right now too. And what I like about the Celtics is it's Horford and Robert Williams. They have this really nice big lineup. And again, this is without Jaylen Brown right now. So you see 2 starting centers almost every lineup here. And then with this ankle sprain, you're going to see Aaron Naismith get the start. It's not going to be something that matters for fantasy points because it looks like Derek White is actually like the true play here to get more minutes. And then I still like Grant Williams as kind of the true 6th man. So I'm going to say Derek White, Grant Williams. Those are the names that you need to keep an eye on. Grant Williams, 3 of 3 from the three-pointer. So good game, halftime there. I'm probably going to pick that up here when I'm done with the show. Dalton, man, thanks for hanging out, dude. You like we got the new 1080. We used to have not the best streaming output, but we upped it to 1080. So I appreciate the love. Let's look at this Miami Brooklyn box score real quick because we have Kevin Durant back, and I'm intrigued to see what the fantasy numbers look like here. But for Miami first of all, Yurtseven getting some minutes. If you guys remember when Adebayo was hurt, Yurtseven was getting massive points. So if he's going to be a guy that gets minutes here, I wish they would just give him all the Deadman minutes and he'd be an actual starter. But he started tonight, 3 rebounds, only 2 points, 1 block. We'll see if he can get more minutes in the second half. But otherwise, Adebayo leads the way with 19. Off the bench, Tyler Hero, 16 points, and then Caleb Martin, 10 points here. And then let's get to the Nets. So KD is back, 7-11 from the field. You see 17 points. Bruce Brown playing fine, 9 points. Drummond, 6 points and only 2 boards. That's a little low. Dragic, fine, whatever, 7 points, 5 assists and 3 rebounds. So Dragic might be a guy worth looking at and seeing if he's available. And then Curry here, just 6 points, nothing else. The bench, Aldridge, Patty Mills getting minutes. Patty Mills 4 for 4 from the 3, so that's what's keeping Brooklyn ahead right now. 14 points. It's going to be scary, man, to see this team. They're beating a very good Heat team right now without Kyrie Irving and Ben Simmons. So I'm a little bit nervous here. The East is going to be furious and tough coming up. Let's take a peek here at the Detroit Pistons and the Toronto Raptors. Jeremy Grant leading the way for the Pistons. Sadiq Bey playing well here, 11 points. Cade Cunningham playing fine, 12 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. Nothing from the bench here. Hamidou Diallo, nothing from the bench here. Isaiah Stewart kind of lacking. Only 3 points, 3 rebounds, 2 points, 2 blocks. That's fine, I suppose. And then the Raptors. So Malachi Flynn gets to start tonight for Fred VanVleet. Playing well, 8 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. But it looks like it's Gary Trent Jr. night, 3 of 10 from the three-pointer. He's really the only one doing much. Scotty Barnes and Siakam are playing fine as well. This is a 60-57 game at halftime here. Not too much excitement for fantasy in this one. And then let's just click into that Chicago-Atlanta game here. So DeRozan, 18 points. Levine, 18 points. Vucevic, 13 points. Javonte Green playing well. And then Dosunmu, 4 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 9 points. Off the bench, Kobe White. Again, Dosunmu and Kobe White need to be picked up, guys. And then the Hawks, 5 starters over double digits. That's nice to see. And then Bogdanovich over double digits as well. So this game is coming down to the nitty gritty. 97-93. Bulls are up. 10 minutes left to go. I'm gonna get into the Memphis Boston game myself. Thank you guys so much for watching tonight. Shout out to Aiden. Shout out to Dalton. And I don't know who this bot is, but I'm going to delete that comment later. And I don't know. Thank you guys so much for your time. Don't forget to like the video. Subscribe if you're new. Check out thefantasyfellowship.com. And if you guys ever are on the go, check out Spotify, The Fantasy Fellowship. We do have our podcast on there. And what's cool about Spotify is they have a video now where you can actually watch the show. So YouTube videos, I can just upload those right to the Spotify. So if you ever do miss a show or want to get caught up on something, Spotify has you covered if you can't watch on YouTube. So thank you guys so much for your time. Enjoy your evening. We'll see you guys later. Peace.